Hello everyone and welcome to another Drinking With me, Brad, Wine Time London, my co-host,
Mr. Tokai, I just never remember my name, but don't worry, that's fine.
Shabba, and our guest today is...
Lee Isaacs. Yeah, how you doing?
Lee is a wine educator, wine professional,
Entertainer,
as
far as I know.
basically comedian on the side, and we're here today to talk about Lee and about Argentina. So we'll start off with asking Lee, what got you into wine, mate?
Alcoholic parents, essentially.
Okay.
No, I had quite a continental style upbringing, so I was always encouraged from the age of 5, which sounds terrible, doesn't it? From the age of 5, I was encouraged to try sort of a little bit of white wine, so a bit less than this. That was topped up with water or lemonade.
Yeah.
And that ratio obviously changed the more drunk my parents got. I mean, the older I got. And I just remember sort of being, it was kind of always there. It was every meal time, and it was always really enjoyed. And by the age of 13, I remember that I was really into it. So I was aware that I could pronounce Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay.
You know, I
A lot of people still can't do it.
they still struggle. You know, I mean, when I was outside, I was still at the point of sticking stones up my nose, but I could pronounce Cabernet Sauvignon. And I was in a hotel in London with my mother, and she ordered a glass of house red. And I said to her, "Can I try it?" She said, "Yes." Now, I was a real pretentious little so-and-so, and I'd seen Julie Goulden on the TV, so I took the glass, and I really, like some kind of vinous D'Artagnan, I'm swirling this thing round really dramatically, and yes, and I start reeling off these, cherries, that's cherries and raspberry. I didn't have a clue what this thing was doing. Anyway, I tasted it, gave it all that, and I looked at my mother, and I said, "I think this is an Australian Shiraz." And my mother said, "You're 13, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about." And it was an Australian Shiraz. Now, at the age of 13, I knew that Shiraz was a grape, but I didn't know what that meant.
No, okay.
You know, right? I knew that Cabernet Sauvignon was a grape, but again, I didn't know. I figured they were different, but I didn't know why or how or what that meant. But I also knew that wine didn't just come from Australia. I knew the Italians made it, I knew the French made it, but I just thought, isn't it interesting, by kind of looking at this thing, smelling it, tasting it, I'm able to identify that it's a very specific thing. And that was really interesting to me. Now, all I was doing was recognising what we drank at home. We drank Australian Shiraz at home. So, you know, it's kind of obvious from the point of looking back.
Yeah,
go,
well,
but what else was it going to be?
Yeah.
What else was a house red going to be? Like, a house red today is probably an Argentine Malbec, right? Back then, it was an Aussie Shiraz. So, I turned 18. I was accepted to university, and as was cool then, and I believe is still cool now. Never been cool, but I took a gap year.
Yes.
So I needed a job, and a job came up in my local odd bins, and I'm 18, and you think, but that's great, just sit around and drink wine all day, which we now know that's really not what being a wine merchant is about. I applied for the job, I got the job, and 3 months in, I phoned the university and said, "I'm really grateful that you offered me a place at your fine institution, but I won't be coming along." And there was a party popper went off and a cheer in the background. It's an annual holiday at Lancaster University every year. This date they celebrate. I mean, they lost a substantial amount of government funding with me not going along, but they made up for that. And that was nearly 18 years ago, and I've been a wine merchant ever since. And I can't imagine doing anything else.
I have one question. Whoever served your mother in that hotel, the waiter or waitress, was she sacked straight away because a 13-year-old was drinking wine on the side, or?
No, she sort of stood there and went, "What is he doing with all this going on?"
He's going to spit.
What's
He's going to
happening
spit.
here? It's like, this is clearly some kind of, I don't know what this
theatrical.
Yeah. No, I think she's still got a job. She's still in therapy. I know that, but I think she's still got a job. So
That's very good.
Okay, so we're going to talk also about Argentina, and Lee has just come back from a trip to Argentina, and you've been there a few...
7 or 8 times now.
So there you go. So if you want to know about Argentina, he's your man. Actually, if you want to know about a lot of things, he's your man. But we're going to focus on Argentina for now. So what do you think Argentina brings to the wine world?
That's a good question. I've never been asked that question quite that way before. I mean, for me, it's very easy to shoehorn Argentina into kind of one thing, isn't it? And that is Malbec. That's what we know. And what was the stat recently? 11% of all red wine consumed in the UK is Malbec.
Wow.
I do contribute to that quite substantially.
To be honest, so do I. I drink it. Some people don't, but I do, and I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
When it calls for it.
So in that sense, what has Argentina brought to the table? It's brought something that most consumers understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whether we understand really what Malbec actually is,
Yes.
I think there's a separate question there. But I think what it's brought to the table is people know the name Argentina.
Yep.
I think most people know where it is, I think.
Yep.
Most people know Malbec, they've heard of it. So whether they really understand what it is, I think is partly irrelevant. It's something that the consumer is able to go, I know, I like Argentine Malbec,
Yep.
and I'm happy to spend the money on it in a wine shop, in a restaurant.
You're not going to be disappointed when you have an Argentine
And
Malbec
that's it.
in a pub or
Exactly.
in
There's
wherever.
there's kind of there's an expectation, but there's a consistency. And I think so. The sort of anecdotal piece I have around this, I was doing a talk for Sophie Jump asked me to along. This was several years ago to just come do a little talk with some of the people about Argentine wine. And why on earth she asked me? She must have been really desperate, and everybody else said no. But I went along and I get in a taxi from the station to the hotel, and the taxi driver makes some conversation, as taxi drivers do, what you're doing in London, all of that. That's a bit personal, isn't it? I said, I'm a wine merchant, I'm here I'm doing a little talk about wine. And he said straight off the bat, oh, Argentine Malbec, that's really good, isn't it? And I had a little sort of Argentine flag in my lapel, so I think he'd seen that. I said, oh, yeah, great, I like it as well. You're obviously a fan. He said, no, I don't drink wine at all. Okay. He said, oh, it's my wife, she drinks it. So I'm going, hang on a minute, here's somebody who doesn't drink wine, doesn't interact with it, he's not interested.
No.
Short of, he obviously likes to buy his wife a bottle of wine and make sure she's got something to drink and all of that. And he didn't understand what it is, but he understood this is obviously good quality, people like it, it's, if we're in a restaurant, that's what my wife's going to order. I think that's really quite powerful.
Yeah.
Totally. As a whole sort of, I don't say, but as a whole brand, it really is.
Yes.
That brand Malbec from Argentina is huge.
That's an interesting point. So you were saying you're obviously not a huge fan
No.
of Malbec.
No, but I at the same time I understand why people like it, and obviously I'm just being a bit.
It's fun to be a bit
Yeah,
contentious. isn't it?
exactly. These sort of quality, more than happy to recommend to anyone, happy to drink. But if it comes to a point where somebody wants a cheap Malbec or something else, I tend to steer them to something else because I want to show them exciting things, interesting things like Bonarda or Criolla, this sort of stuff. But I think Malbec did the job. What only the only other grape variety or region could do is, I would probably say, New Zealand and Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Exactly
Those
the same
two things
idea.
just-
Yes.
But yeah,
There's your red and your white. And
Or-
Yeah.
although now what we're drinking is Toronto's Riesling. I think it's the blend. I don't even know what we're selling, but yeah, I think
it is a blend.
It is a blend. So, but Toronto's was the rave a few years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to whites, I like that really aromatic. So I have. It's probably quite sad to share here. Sorry, I have a medical condition. I was diagnosed a few years ago, and I suffer from something called chronic Riesling dependency. Sorry. There's no cure. There's no cure. But you can maintain a level.
And
so
he does
I know.
certainly have this.
I do. It's just I have to drink a bottle just to maintain sobriety. But I love, obviously, Riesling. I love the aromatic wines. That's the kind of thing that gets me really excited. So when I sort of discovered Toronto's, for me, this thing blew me away because it had this thing. I remember being out with Bodega Tapis on my first trip to Argentina, tasting with a guy there called Juan, and he said, in Argentina we call it the liar grape, and it's because you smell it, just when you smell this, and it has Riesling in it, but you smell it and you have that sensation of, you can't smell sweetness, but you can smell sweet fruits.
Floral.
Yes.
No,
Yeah,
yes.
floral and honey blossom and peach and apricot, and you smell it and you think, this one might be quite sweet, and then you try it and 9 times out of 10 it's dry. So it sort of tricks you. But I just think what Toronto's does, and the fact that it's unique to Argentina, that there's a grape in Galicia with the same, it has the name Toronto's, but it's actually
No
something
relation,
completely different. I just think what Toronto's has to offer is really exciting. There's a big conversation, people can't pronounce it, perhaps they don't understand it. There's not been that big marketing piece behind it, but I think it's for the drinker who's gone, I've had enough of Sauvignon Blanc, I've kind of done Chardonnay, I've done Pinot Grigio, I've done all of that, and
Yep.
I really want something else. Obviously you need to know why they're drinking those wines,
Yep.
but Torontes could be such a good
Totally.
option because it's dry, but it has the floral aromatic as well.
And this wine is really, really great, guys. It's everything they're saying. It's floral, but it's still got the peach and apricot, and there's not a sweetness, but it's sort of like it coats your mouth. It's very unctuous, sort of like.
So often with Torontes is quite high in pectins. So during its production, it needs a little bit of skin contact. Obviously, when we talk about whites, we go, there's no skin contact. We know there is, and then there's orange wine and all of that, which is really exciting. Orange wine's great. But with Torontes, you have just a little bit of skin contact, and that brings out just a little bit of glycerol, and it gives you that texture. And what I love about Torontes is you get that floral aromatic. You can get that freshness of acidity, particularly with a wine like this from Salta, but you still get that texture to it as well.
Yeah.
It's actually really complex texturally.
Definitely. And it is around £12-13.
Yes.
Decanter, 94 points. I'm not really a point sort of person, but it is a cracking wine for the price.
Yeah.
It
and
really
I think
is.
the grape variety itself can be quite varied in terms of, for example, Susanna Babel, she made a barrel fermented version, which retains all the freshness and everything, but at the same time the complexity is amazing there, because the grape itself produces very nice and fairly complex wine in that price point as well, and then when you get to that level, it really blows people away.
I think it's what you can do with it, and it's so Torontes is quite complex in clonal selection. So most plantings are Torontes Riojano from memory, and then there's a couple of other clones.
Yeah.
So I think when you get that Riojano and it holds its acidity really well. I remember I was with Susanna Balbo. She did a tasting at Gaucho restaurants, and I managed to get an invite. I just basically gate crashed and went, let me in.
We'll do a little tag there,
and then Gaucho, brilliant. And then steak, can I free? No, I'll pay. All right. I sat next to Susanna Balbo, so she's going, who's this clown sat next to me, and just talking about her wines, and she introduced this barrel fermented one. Now instantly I worried about that because I see why you barrel ferment Chardonnay, because Chardonnay on its own can be a bit dull. You're just talking very generally. So you add in your salt and pepper of your barrel fermentation. Torontes doesn't need that because it gives you so much aromatically and so much flavour. So when she said, like, I'm barrel fermenting it, in my head I'm going, oh, you're at risk of losing so much. But Susanna Balbo, she's one of the best white winemakers in the world. Fabulous stuff, absolutely stunning.
So I'm going to actually talk about also altitude, because people...
Attitude, I don't have much of that.
Altitude, and all these wines are made at altitude, and I think that's what gives Argentina as well a different what do you say, sort of.
It's kind of the thrust of Argentine marketing almost, is altitude.
Yeah, totally.
I remember I was out in Rueda in Spain a while ago. I'm out there and going, we're 900 metres above sea level. And like, the Argentines are always banging on about, we've got really high vineyards. Like, well, so have you, but you don't talk about it.
Yes.
Whereas Argentina makes this big point, it's altitude, it's the mountains. And I get that because when you go there and you see it and it is inherently beautiful, most wine regions are inherently beautiful. There's not many wine regions you visit and you go, it's not very nice around here, is it? I don't think I've experienced one yet. But it's the fact that where these vineyards are, and they are so high up, and I think that's what sets these Malbecs apart. And talking about that, Malbec has become very generic in many ways. The fact that these are so high up, and the diurnal differences, and the retention of acidity, and the building of finer tannins. I think Malbec is capable of communicating so much more. I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to. It's so much more terroir expressive than we really understand. I don't think in the UK we really get what Malbec, and I think that's because Argentina is still kind of figuring that out.
So guys, if you are drinking Malbec, please go to your local wine merchants, including Noble Green Wines, and try something just a bit more above the price point you're buying, and I'm sure you'll have an outstanding experience. These are really terroir driven. They've got that acidity, and they're just giving you something else, just a level above, especially this time of year where you're thinking about buying someone a present that you want to give them something a bit nicer.
If you want to buy me a present, I'm fine with that.
Buy Leo a present, or myself. Something like this would really, and they will literally go, wow.
So I think that's it. When you get Malbec at altitude, what we know Malbec as in the UK, and I work with a lot of restaurants and hotels and things, and they want that kind of really juicy, slightly sweet, big, almost a bit blousy kind of, and that's fine. That works. People like that, and that's great. When you see it at altitude, for me, what real Malbec should have is a core of good red cherry fruit, not the dark fruit, that acidity, but almost a floral, violet,
violets,
that kind of thing. And what we're seeing, particularly in the Urco, is that division now of sort of real specific site selection that just gets really exciting. So on my recent trip to Argentina, as you said at the start, I was there back in August. Every producer I visited, I saw 8 producers. Every single one went down that route of, we don't want to do the heavy extraction, we don't want to do those big bulky wines anymore. We want to really get to a sense of place that perhaps we've not really explored before in terms of Malbec. And you see, obviously, that's led by Zuccardi and the work Sebastian Zuccardi's doing. Atom Iscaas. I had to highlight the Bramare from Vigna Cobos because Andres Vignoni, who's their head winemaker, is a good friend of mine. I've known him for sort of 5 or 6 years, and he still can't shake me off. But the work that they're doing to really explore. Yeah. Eventually, I will get booted out of here. I'll buy some wine first.
That's all right, no problem.
But I just think there's a lot more to Argentina than we think about, and part of that is that the marketing machine. Is part of that. Is it what consumers want? Are we leading it enough, or are we perhaps being too reactive instead of proactive? That's I'm not a marketer. I don't know.
No.
I just think it could be that little bit more.
Maybe we get someone from wine marketing on in the future to talk about how they do that. It might be a good segment.
I think I know you saw this little video I did yesterday where I'm doing some work with a rocker producer and I've got this virtual reality headset. And for me, what I love most about wine is the fact that it does take you on a journey. So when I drink that, just for a brief moment of tasting it, I'm in Salta.
Yeah.
And I can
I've
imagine the vineyards and see it. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we've got to try and communicate that beauty to consumers, and we've got to get away from this. It's all using words like terroir. I know I do it, but we kind of got to reframe that a little bit and go, look, this is just about taking you to a specific time and place, and hopefully, if you understand that, I think that increases your enjoyment a bit more. And for so long, it's just been like, here's a picture of a vineyard, great. There's another one, all at the same. Anyway, this virtual reality headset, you're in. It's mad. You're there.
Yeah.
That's what the wine should be doing.
Yes.
So anything new that
especially with the technology advances we've got now.
Yeah.
Everyone could be doing.
We just need one of them Star Trek transporter things, so I can go. I'm having a rough day. Salta, and then beam in.
And there's
beam
the
into like Suzanne, right in front of Susanna Balbo. I'll have that. Thanks. Beam back.
Yes. There's Lee again.
Yeah. He's always doing that. Don't worry about it.
But on the serious note, actually, even without the new technology and everything, what I found with Malbec is a lot of people tasted it already, obviously, and you can actually take them to different places as well, because not many people know that Malbec is originally it's more of a French grape than anything else, and you can still find amazing Cahors and some Bordeaux producers still use Malbec. So I think it's in that sense the grape is actually made it marketing worthwhile, because you can use it for other things as well, not just actually.
You sort of look at where that goes back. So, I'm seeing so many more. 10 years ago, you didn't see a bottle of Cahors that said Malbec on the label. You're now seeing that.
Yes,
and,
totally.
Part of it, there's a cynic in me that sort of goes, all right, here we go. But actually, that's nothing but positive, because it's opening up this whole other avenue of wine that people are maybe not familiar with, maybe they've not seen. And then what makes that really interesting to me, so a lot of the training I do, I train a lot of people who aren't in wine at all, but they have a responsibility for talking about it and selling it. And I give them a Chilean Sauvignon Blanc and a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and the purpose of the exercise is, can you see that these two things are different? And they go, oh yeah, they are. Quite, I don't really know why, but they're different. You go, okay, that's what I need you to get. I don't really need you to be able to explain that. It's great if you can, but seeing the difference. So if you're in that position, we go, okay, this is the Argentine Malbec, you like drinking this. Here's a core, taste that. Oh, that's different, isn't it? Why? Why? It's getting you to ask why. And then, so the Malbec that's growing in, so the Malbec that made it to Argentina with Michel Pouget in the 1850s was pre-phylloxera. So they got that just before phylloxera started to ravage. But it's taken on its own identity. So the Malbec that we see in France is actually slightly bigger bunches, slightly looser hanging. It's a little bit more susceptible to mildews and things like that. But so there's that piece, but then there's they're just from two different places. Try if you like one, you probably like the other. But what's going on here? What is it that's making them different?
And that's it,
really
guys.
exciting.
It's about grabbing a bottle from Argentina, a bottle from Cahors, or a bottle from New Zealand and a bottle from Chile. a bottle from California and a bottle from
That's
Burgundy.
enough
No, but it is, and trying them together and seeing what the difference is.
Make sure you get the Nurofen while you buy those bottles
Yes.
the next morning.
Yes, but it's about trying them together. If you have people around the table like this, 2 or 3 people, grab 2 bottles, try them together, get the differences, and just really just have an experience with the wine.
To really understand a wine, it needs to be tried amongst its peers to really get it, I think. Ultimately, my primary goal, concern, I just want people to enjoy wine.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's why we do this. That is
Exactly.
trying to get it out to more people to try and see.
If that's, do you know what, I like buying my bottle at £7 from Tesco and I really enjoy it, that's brilliant.
Yep.
When that person, if they're ready, if they want to go, I'm thinking about spending a tenner, I'm thinking about going into the little local wine shop, I'd love to be that person who goes, I can help.
Yes.
If you want me to help, I will. If you don't, hey, go on the journey.
And you can message us, guys, with these questions. We're all very socially active on social media, so please message us if you are trying to transition from that £7 bottle in the supermarket to a wine shop to that £20 bottle, whatever spectrum you are. We have been there and can help you out and can point you in the right direction.
And at the same time, if you come to Noble Green Wines, you buy 6 bottles and get them cheaper as well.
Oh, look at that! I think I left my wallet over there. I'm going to be payday tomorrow.
Yes.
Never mind.
So Lee, what's next for you in the future and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not. So my little blog that I run is called. There's a little plug there. I didn't even think about that. It's called Freestyle Wines, and the reason I called it Freestyle Wines is because I'm not really. Somebody said to me once, if there's I was doing one of these corporate things, is there a quote that sums you up from a film? And I just thought of the Joker in The Dark Knight when he goes, "Do I really look like a guy with a plan?" And that's me. Obviously, I don't wear the makeup and I don't blow up hospitals. That's awful. But I don't.
And he did.
He did. But he did it with style at least, and it was totally fictional, so that's good. But I don't tend to make plans.
No.
I mean, wine trade is all I've ever done. I don't see me doing anything. I couldn't do anything else. I just love this too much. MW, I'd like to have a stab at that.
Yep,
if I can find a willing benefactor. Just edit that out. Yeah,
No, I can say that. It's all part of the game.
You know, the MW, I'd really love to have a stab at that, and I've talked to, I know a few MWs because most of us do, and when you've been in the trade long enough, and they're all very supportive of that. So
Totally.
I'd love to have a go at that. Don't think I'd succeed, but it's not really about that for me. It's about that journey and that process and the learning.
And to be honest with you, you'll probably surprise yourself because you
entirely possible. So I'd like to do that. I'm in a position, the business I work for, that I won't give a plug. I'm in a position where I can possibly start to really shape this business from a national basis.
That's right.
From a training perspective and a range perspective.
Well, if you want to come on and plug them, you can.
I'll have to get that signed off by the
that's
marketing
fine,
team.
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm very, very careful about that.
Yeah,
I got my wrist slapped once for something I said on Twitter, which was all very positive.
Yeah, no.
So you know, I really enjoy working with this range and being able to tie it down and kind of look at the trends and look at what people want and how can we,
interesting.
you know, improve that and how can we just deliver more training and get people more interested. And also I plan on winning a huge sum of money on the lottery. As we all do. And you just spend it on wine and go to wine. It'd just be wines, wineries.
Yeah, so actually, if he does win, it's great for everyone. It's just
yeah. I'd share it around.
Yeah.
And I'd give you 5.
Thanks.
Yeah. So,
Shaba, what's going on with you, Noble Greens and everything?
Well, Christmas stuff is coming on. Obviously, all the offers and everything, the usual stuff. But
we've got a few drop-in tastings as well.
We have a few drop-in tastings, which we start advertising today actually, and we have the big Christmas one, which there's some exciting news coming out from there. We offer a great discount if somebody spends a fair amount of money with us on that day. And also we have Amalaya White in the aromatic tasting machine, so just pop in and have a
try for yourself.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Okay.
Anything with you?
I've got a few bits coming up. A few other meeting winemakers, a little separate side gig. Plus, I'm going to do a giveaway every week till Christmas. The first one's going to be this Friday. Check out, post about it, and a bottle of wine could be yours. And that's about it. So, from me, Wine Time London.
From me, Chubba.
And Wineman147. Thank you for having me.
Lee Isaacs, Drinking With.
Cheers,
guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.